What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of It's Called Football. This is our eighth episode of the Vendetta Sports Media Daily, or Vendetta Sports Media's Premier League podcast. Jerry Walker, alongside me as always, is Jackson Fyda. Jackson, before we get into the exciting Premier League action, because man, was there a lot of crazy stuff that happened this past weekend. How are you doing on this Thursday morning?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Tired, but ready to get talking about our favorite thing to talk about. So,
Absolutely. Love talking some footy. And especially for you with the big game this weekend, Arsenal and Man City. Just tell me your thoughts as the Arsenal fan. Huge
I
in forever.
I was so happy watching that. I didn't think we'd win. I really didn't, especially the way the game started.
Yeah.
I uh I thought it was going to be like it always is, where they just run over us. They just show up when they need to, and it looked like it was because they had that early chance. I think it was Vardiol cleared off the line. David Raya almost kicked it off of Alvarez into the goal, which I don't know. I just thought it was going to be their day. They were going to win not just by one goal, but by two goals. But after those first 15 minutes, Arsenal kind of really settled in a little bit more. Now,
Yeah.
City still dominated the first half. Second half, I think Arsenal was on top. Pretty boring game, not going to lie. I feel like for people who are just tuning in for excitement, for me, I was into it the whole time
Absolutely.
because I'm just on the edge of my seat because I know like at any point something could happen. And then, yeah, it was the substitute just coming back from injury, Gabriel Martinelli with the deflection goal, which I mean seems to be the only way we can beat him right now is scoring deflected goals. But F it, I don't care. We got the win, and seeing the reaction, the crowd, everything about it was just incredible because we finally broke that glass ceiling. And I'm just happy because it's not just a win, but that's like a statement win.
Mm.
Like, okay, we can finally beat them. And that also shows City's lack of depth, I think, in the midfield. When you're losing Rodri, you lose De Bruyne, suddenly you're vulnerable. You lose three of your last four games. They're in a tough spot right now. So obviously they're going to get Rodri back, but I think that highlights something that they need to address in the January transfer window. For
Yeah.
sure, is getting more depth in the midfield. But from an Arsenal perspective, we were missing Saka. Partey was coming back from injury. We still don't have Timber. Martinelli was coming back from an injury. And we were able to win the game, which I think is a huge, huge positive,
Mm.
especially when we made mistakes early on as well, like the David Raya incident. Even with all that, we still found a way to win. So I think that was a huge statement victory from Arsenal that we can get that win. Again, City, little not at their full strength, whatever. We can get that win. And that's huge going forward. Now sitting top of the table with Tottenham, and City's fallen back into third. So
Yeah, it is kind of crazy thinking about it that way in terms of Man City. Sure, they might not be at full strength, but we've talked about in the past so much how this Man City depth has been the reason they can go out and win the title every year. Saw with Champions League last year. They just find ways and find players who fit in perfectly off the bench. Seems like they're missing that this year. Mateo Kovacic, Rico Lewis, nothing against them, but it's not exactly Rodri back there. And really, I think that's the biggest thing they're missing. We can
mhm.
talk about how good of a holding midfielder he is. He's one of the best in the world, arguably, if not the best at his position, and it's very noticeable. Even more so when they have to bring on the likes of John Stones to play in that midfield, even more so.
100%. And I think it's also going back to the game. How was Kovacic still on at
Yeah,
halftime? I don't
that's
understand how he was still on. That was actually absurd. I mean, if you don't want to give a red for the first one, that's fine. But how is that not a double yellow?
I don't know. It really should have been in. It should have been Man City playing with 10, and then it would make sense if Arsenal goes out and gets the win a little bit more. Not
Yeah.
that they didn't deserve it by any means, but it's still just that you haven't gotten over this hump ever. And maybe this is that confidence boost they need to be like, okay, we can
hmm
finally beat City in the Premier League. We've done it in some cups in the past, but it's been forever since we've done that, not since before Pep even took over Man City. It's one of those crazy wins where it seemed like it was more of a smash and grab almost at times. Didn't really expect anything. I know I kind of assumed once we got to the 80th minute, we were either going to see a draw or Man City find some freak goal that just happens to hit the back of the net.
Mhm.
Erling Haaland has not looked to himself really,
Saliba
almost
was
because
bodying
he
him.
hasn't scored in almost half a month. Hasn't
Mhm,
scored since September 23rd against Forest, but I think that's all still becoming. I think we were realizing how much he needs someone to play those perfect balls to him.
mhm.
Alvarez has been thriving at the moment, but Holland has just kind of quieted out and disappeared almost.
Yeah, it's because Holland doesn't create his own chances too often.
Mm,
Obviously, the way he plays here is different than the way he played at Dortmund, but at Dortmund, you have people sending him through balls, and he would do the rest. You can't do that in the Premier League
mm,
because the defenders are honestly better, and they play, I think, tactically more astute, especially defensively. I
yeah,
mean, Saliba, there was a play where Holland was looking to run, and he just bounced off of Saliba. Like, Saliba just took it.
yep.
So yeah, we're seeing what happens when you don't have De Bruyne in there to play the ball to Holland because no one else is gonna be able to play those balls.
Yeah, and it allows the center backs like Saliba, who played a perfect match against him on Sunday, lets him focus on Holland a little bit more because you do need to. You can't let off him by any means because it does just take one touch of the ball and he can score from virtually anywhere out inside and around the 18-yard box. But it's one of those things that without De Bruyne playing the pinpoint perfect pass, Foden's not doing that. Bernardo Silva's not really doing that like he has in the past. It's more been kind of Holland's been taken out of the play, double teamed in the past couple of weeks, and Alvarez just finds the open space and scores.
Mhm.
That seems how those front two are scoring, and it's not really Holland doing all that much, which, again, props to the defense of Arsenal. They had a game plan, worked to perfection. And I think it helps to an extent having Martin Odegaard, who
Mhm.
does play with him, knows him well from the Norwegian side. And that's something I have a friend from Norway who was telling me that as good as Holland is, same stuff you just said. He's not the guy who's going to create a play. He's not sure he can finish like anybody's business, but he's not going to single handedly beat defenders. And now we're not even seeing him muscle off defenders, which that was something he was doing in abundance last year. That's kind of what really made him super successful in the Premier League.
Yeah, and, I don't know, it's just kinda crazy. I was just thinking about this. I was thinking about the difference between Mbappe and Holland right now. The difference is at times Mbappe can create the plays. Holland is showing that he can't do that right now.
Mm.
So I don't know, completely off topic, but that thought came into my mind. But yeah, for sure, when Holland doesn't have someone there to play that ball, to put him in that right spot, to give him all those chances,
Mm.
then he's not going to score. And when he's not scoring, we see his confidence go down. So that when he does have those chances, he misses.
Yeah.
I've seen so many chances recently where Holland of old would have buried it,
Yeah.
whether it's a sliding half chance when the ball is played across on the ground, or it's a header. I don't even know, or a shot. It's a kind of goals that he was scoring last year, and then this year he's just not doing it. So I think the lack of constant service like he had last year is really affecting him mentally to the point that when he gets it, he's already frustrated. His confidence is low, and then he doesn't score, and it just keeps going and going and going. Hopefully for him during this international break, he's able to get his confidence back up because right now, I mean, when you don't have Holland scoring, you're not the same team.
No, no.
Like the team last year was as good as they are because they had De Bruyne feeding the best goal scorer in the world.
Yep.
Right now, that's not happening. Alvarez, luckily for them, is picking up a lot of the slack,
Mhm.
but you need someone else to step up to play those balls to Holland. You need Holland to step up again and
Yeah.
start scoring the goals. Because again, 3 losses in 4 games. You lose to an Arsenal team that you've beaten 6 straight years and you haven't lost to since 2015, and you're now sitting 3rd in the table. Again, 30 games to go.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to figure it out, plenty of time for City to become the City that they always are. And again, De Bruyne will be back at some point this year.
Mhm.
but they they're in a rough little patch right now, and they got to
Abs
figure it out.
Yeah, I think this shows a little bit of the vulnerability Man City has in terms of if they lose 1 or 2 players, we see De Bruyne and Rodri go down, that it's a completely different team, and looking at their Premier League fixtures coming up, not the easiest. Home to Brighton, who on any given day, we'll get into their match with Liverpool in a bit, but any given day, they can play with the best and beat the best even at times. They have that one, and then a week later, the trip across the city to Old Trafford.
Mhm.
You have to assume Rodri or will be back after suspension for both of those, so that's a big boost. But is it? I don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll take care of business in the Brighton game for sure. They'll
Mhm.
be at home, have plenty of time to work on stuff, so the guy's not going
Yeah,
on international break. Which I don't know who wouldn't be going on international break for City. I feel like just about everyone would go,
yeah,
but the guys who are around can continue to work, and as soon as they're there, they'll continue to work. Get ready for that. The Man U game's the one I don't feel too confident for him.
mhm,
I mean, we'll talk about what Man U did the other in their game in just a little bit, but Man U's starting to play well again, and
mhm,
they're
mhm.
starting to get some results, and they've got a little bit of confidence going their way.
Yeah,
So, and that's at Old Trafford.
it's gonna be a tough one. We will see what Pep can cook up because give him 2 weeks now, more or less, or a week and a half, and he'll find some way to turn his team around.
Mhm.
But on the Arsenal side of things, sure, no Saka. How big of a win is it doing it without him, first of all?
I mean, it's massive because it shows that we can do it without our best attacking player. And anyone who argues he's not our best attacking player is crazy.
That's
Martinelli's second, sure, but Saka is definitely our best attacking player. So the fact that we were able to win this without him shows a lot. Now, it does also show what Martinelli can do because when you bring in Martinelli, it's the pace, it's the constant running. He makes a huge difference as well and definitely deserves to start. I know we were talking about Trossard earlier this year, but he can't do what Martinelli does.
Mhm.
But again, doing it without Saka and having to play Gabriel Jesus kind of in that different role where he's playing on the wing and you're still able to get the results, still look dangerous at times, a huge thing. Also, shout out Declan Rice. He was an absolute monster in the midfield.
Played a great game.
Monster.
I mean, that's why you spent so much money on, or why Arsenal spent
Yeah.
so much money on Declan Rice is to do this thing, kind of things in the big games. It's why Man City wanted him, got into a little bit of a bidding war, but for the first time, I think ever, Man City pulled out of the bids. Didn't keep throwing money at him, but hey, it's a very exciting win for Arsenal. It kind of gives us some parity that we in the league for the first time in a while. Sure, last year Arsenal had it, but there always was that sense that City was going to figure it out. City was going to kind of make a run, and more on the other side. If I, to me personally, I felt like Arsenal was kind of just going to let it slip. Too little experience, and it was just going to feel the pressure. Which getting this win is a huge weight off your back.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if it's now in March when they play the next time. Beating City is just a confidence boosters, and going into the international break is exactly what Arteta and company needed.
Mhm. They finally got over that hump. So now there's that sense of belief that, yes, we can do it this year because we just beat the big guys.
Yep,
We just beat them. So we finally did that. Why can't we go and win the whole thing? So huge confidence boost, huge statement win.
absolutely. Another team that had a relatively big confidence boost, Chelsea. First Premier League goals in over a month. And it
Mhm.
didn't exactly start out very pretty against Burnley on the road. Burnley gets a goal in the 15th minute from Wilson Odobert, but then they score 4. Own goal in the 42nd minute equalizes it. Penalty by Cole Palmer to start out the second half. Raheem Sterling, Nick Jackson get goals. It's Chelsea kind of looked like a team we expected Chelsea to finally look like.
Yeah, finally, because they haven't looked like this at all, minus the Luton Town game. So again, it's another team that just got promoted. So I'm not going to put too much stock into this because I've seen them play everyone else. but huge for them. Cole Palmer finally gets a goal. Sterling's finally back on the score sheet. Jackson's finally back on the score sheet. So they finally get some of those goals coming because right now, offensively, they've been horrendous.
Yeah.
So that's a huge confidence boost for them. Even like a 2-1 would have been great, but 4-1, that is huge because they're finally back in the goals. So, I mean, yeah, that's great for them because that's one area they've been lacking. I still think defensively they need to pick things up as well. But that's back-to-back wins because they beat Fulham. So, finally starting to get things going. And this leads into the Arsenal game coming up in 9 days. So, that's going to be a huge one for Chelsea because now that they've got the wins against teams that aren't doing as well. I mean, Fulham's not a relegation battling team at the moment, but Burnley is. So they've gotten the wins against the kind of lower teams that you'd expect them to beat. Now they got to transition that into a win at home against Arsenal.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a big thing is the at-home part against Arsenal because the last 2 wins, Fulham and Burnley, were both on the road. So they're showing they can get it done away from Stamford Bridge. This might be one of those ones that the Stamford Bridge crowd roars behind them and gives them that much support that it makes a difference. I personally don't see it.
Yeah.
We'll talk on that match next week in more detail, but I think Arsenal's coming off an even bigger win, you would say, than Chelsea beating a relegation possible side Burnley, and they needed that win because Chelsea's Premier League schedule is brutal.
Oh yeah.
Obviously,
After
home. Yeah. Obviously, home to Arsenal. Go ahead.
Sorry. You go. I was just gonna say after that game, it gets crazy.
Yeah, home to Arsenal, home to Brentford, which could go either way. You would think they'd beat Brentford. Then away to Tottenham, home to Man City, away to Newcastle, home to Brighton, and at Man U. They realistically could lose every single one of those matches. But
yeah, actually crazy looking at it that the schedule came out that way.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. You're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are competing in Europe at the moment.
Nuts.
Crazy to think, which that could be a big issue for them on the season. Sure, they're in 11th with 11 points. Should be far enough ahead, but it's looking a little suspect. But they're finally scoring. And I think that's the big thing. It's going to be that confidence boost. Mudryk even had a goal the other week. They're finally getting these players to kind of gel together and click. And this is what I thought was, to an extent, would happen with Pochettino coming in to manage. It's going to take a little bit of time for everyone to get on the same page. But once it does, won't be something special, but it could be something more on the likely side, closer to what we've seen Chelsea of the past be doing.
Yeah.
Burnley, they just did not look great.
They haven't looked good at all this year.
They really might be they are one of the favorites to go down at this point.
Oh, yeah. I was expecting way more from him. Okay, maybe not way more. I was expecting a little bit better.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting him to give up 4 against Chelsea.
No.
And be dominated in most assets of the game. Possession 62-38, Chelsea's favor. Passes 664 to 390.
Yeah.
Both shots were relatively even. Shots on target fell to Chelsea 5-3, and that makes it even wilder. They scored 4 of their 5 chances on goal.
Yeah.
Or I guess technically because of the own goal, but clinical finishing for Chelsea side that has had opportunities but has not been able to find the back of the net.
Yeah, it's impressive. So,
and the other big name team that finally got another result in their favor was Man U. Unfortunate as it is, neither of us really enjoy watching Man U, but after losing to Crystal Palace 1-0 and losing late to Galatasaray, it was time for some Fergie time magic to happen at Old Trafford, and it came in the form of Scott McTominay. Comes in the 87th minute, Man U's down 1-0, has a almost has a goal. Then he scores once in the 93rd minute and wins it in the 97th minute. Should there have been 7 minutes of stoppage time? This is what we've talked about in the past. Might be getting a little out of hand, but they want it. It's also Old Trafford, Man U, always kind of expect something like this to happen. But as
Yeah.
surprising as it is McTominay scored, I was more surprised we saw Harry Maguire with the assist.
hmm I'm actually just surprised we still see Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans on the field.
Yeah.
Feels like a fever dream watching them out there, but I mean, they actually didn't do it too poorly. Johnny Evans actually had himself a decent game,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. But yeah, Harry Maguire getting an assist is actually absurd.
And it puts Brentford's winless streak to a lot. Didn't win a single match, only got 1 point all of September. Drew with Forest in their first match of October, now lose this. The Bees are not buzzing. They are in serious trouble of being drawn into the relegation battle, which I think everyone, or you and I both, thought they would be relatively safe.
Yeah, but this is what happens.
That 10th place finish.
This is what happens when you don't have Ivan Toney.
Yep.
When you don't have your talismanic goal scorer up top. Like, this is what happens. I still think they'll ultimately be fine, especially when he comes back. But they got to get something going. And this would have been huge for him. A 1-0 win at Manchester United. But, I mean, fair play, Scott McTominay, man. 2 goals. I mean, so he's actually having a very impressive year, I feel like, in Euro qualifying. And then even in these games, I feel like he's actually had a pretty good year for himself. And, I mean, it was pretty electric to experience watching that second goal go in and seeing the crowd reaction. Huge win for them, because if they hadn't won that game, they would have been still on, what would it be, 9 points? They would have been, they would have been in 13th place. So that
it's big 3 points, because if that happens, also Brentford would have 10, so they're clipping right on their heels. And instead of Scott McTominay, Scottish hero to save the day. And great motivation for him. We've always talked about how good he's been with Scotland in recent months. Hadn't transitioned over to this club level yet, but this is a big one for him. Confidence booster alone, that he can get back to scoring ways in the Premier League. And don't know if it's a surprise or not, but I feel like Onana didn't really make any mistakes for the first time in a while.
Yeah, which pretty sad saying that, but yeah, he actually had a decent enough game.
And I don't know, this one, first 90 minutes, it felt like this was actually going to be Brentford. And easy to say that with that, but for some reason, when I saw the amount of stoppage time, I was thinking, this isn't over yet. The Man U crowd was getting into it. Sure enough, managed to pull out a shock result, which they need. It could be that boost they need, because they play Sheffield United away next. That should be a win. Then it's Copenhagen in the Champions League, where they need 3 points there if they want any chance of advancing out of the group stage. Man City, Newcastle in the EFL Cup, which won't be easy. And it's kind of, they're playing virtually every day, every two times a week for the next month. It's a very tough stretch for them at the moment.
Yeah, go to get the points when you can, though, and they did that. Took him to the very end, and it was Scott McTominay of all people. But it doesn't matter how you get the win, as long as you get the win, you get the 3 points. So big for them. Up next, Sheffield United needs to be a win. Then after that, Man City at home. So got to build into that. So they got on his international break with a little extra boost to their morale. Again, a lot of their players going away, but those who get to stay get to work on some things and get ready for the Sheffield United game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there will be some that go on international break. There always are for Man United, but it feels like there's not going to be nearly as many as possibly in years of the past. It's going to give them time to kind of recoup, get on the same page, and get ready for the rest of this first half of the season. Couple other matches we do want to talk about. Start with that Brighton and Liverpool one, because That was an exciting match.
Yeah, so I think when we were previewing it, we both kind of thought Liverpool would get the win. Um, and it looked like they would for a little bit. Obviously, they go down 1-0. Simon Adingra in the 20th minute gets them the goal for Brighton.
Yep.
But then Salah scores, and then he scores a penalty right on the verge of half. So within basically 6 minutes, suddenly Liverpool's in front, heading into the halftime break, and you're like, all right, they're going to get it done now. Because we've seen it happen before where they go down, then they get the goals, and they see out games. It looked like they would, and then Lewis Dunk, of all people, 78th minute, the massive captain, scores a goal on a set piece, 2-2. It was a good game. It was a good game. I'm not gonna lie. I thought Brighton had a fair amount of chances, and when you look at it, it was pretty even statistically. 14 shots for both sides, 3 on target for Brighton, 4 on target for Liverpool. Liverpool did win the possession battle 54-46, but they only had 80 more passes. So it was a pretty even game. 498 passes for Liverpool, 418 for Brighton. Pass accuracy is basically the same. So when you look at the game statistically and actually just to the eye, it was a pretty even game. So I
Yes, it
think
was.
Brighton played better than I thought they would, than you thought they would, because Liverpool's been kind of flying right now. They've been looking pretty good, and yeah, Brighton did what they needed to do to get a point. Obviously, if you're both sides, you're pretty mad that you let in 2 goals. But from the offensive standpoint, you scored 2 goals against very good teams. So I feel like both these teams could be a little bit disappointed. I think Liverpool's going to be more disappointed, especially being up 2-1 until the 78th minute.
Mhm.
But both teams have positives to take from this, but also plenty of stuff to learn from as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, Liverpool even had a chance to kind of seal it. Ryan Gravenberch hit the crossbar from not too far out. Pretty soon after, Lewis Dunk gets the equalizer. That's a very big 3-point swing right there. And Liverpool still look like one of the best 4 teams in the league so far. I mean, it's easy to say they are sitting in fourth, but it feels like there's a big gap between like Tottenham, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and the rest of the table.
Yeah.
This one was one of the ones where like, okay, maybe Brighton's still around. We keep saying Aston Villa and West Ham's names in the mix. Still think Newcastle will get it together, but this is one that you look down the line and you're like, damn, 3 points there would have been massive for the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I think the main takeaway I had from this game is that Brighton is a good team who can push for Champions League. Like, definitely. Because look, right now, they're currently in 6th place. Again, we're saying all this when we still have 30 games to go,
Yeah.
but this wouldn't be a show if we didn't overreact. So
No.
they're sitting in 6th place, 16 points, 1 off of Liverpool in 4th. So they're right there with everyone. I mean, so is Aston Villa and West Ham, to be completely honest. But yeah, I mean, Brighton's right there, and they're competing in these games. They have shown a certain proclivity for letting in a fair amount of goals in some of these games, which I thought could have happened in this one, where they just defensively just fall apart and have an Aston Villa situation happen again. But they did pretty well this game. Only they did concede 2, but they scored 2 and they got a point out of it. So when you're picking up games like results like that, it's a pretty good thing, I think, for Brighton. So again, Liverpool would have wanted more, but from a Brighton standpoint, you got a point against a team that's killing it right now and is in Champions League position. So you gotta be happy with that if you're De Zerbi, I think.
No, you definitely do. And it's one of those ones that a point's a point for Brighton in this one because they very well could have lost this, but they didn't. Kept it, hung on for a draw, and lived to keep going another day.
Mm-hmm.
Another 2-all draw that I do want to touch on that also had late drama, and it seemed like a very almost mirror match of the Brighton and Liverpool one. West Ham and Newcastle. West Ham get out to an early lead. 8 minutes in, Thomas Soucek gets them on the board. Then it's a brace by Alexander Isak early in the second half. And then substitute Mohamed Kudus comes on. 76th minute he comes on. 89th minute, he equalizes, and West Ham kind of seemed lucky to even get a point because stats wise they look dominant or
Mm.
dominated.
Yeah, but we've seen West Ham do this plenty of times this year, where possession is far in the favor of the other team. The other team has more shots, more opportunities, but West Ham plays a very solid defensive game. And to give them credit, Newcastle, despite having 65% possession, 10 shots compared to West Ham's 5, Newcastle only got 3 on target. So West Ham is kind of built for this, where they let the other teams have the majority of what you would deem control of the game, but they don't do a whole lot. I mean, they did still score 2 goals, don't get me wrong. But compared to what it could have been with the amount of possession chances they had, it's really not that bad. And then West Ham, again, takes advantage of their opportunities. They get forward, they score on counters, they score on set pieces. They've had a good sense about doing that this year. So yeah, if you're Newcastle, you feel pretty disappointed if you're Eddie Howe because you had so much of the ball. You had so many chances. You had nearly 300 total more passes than West Ham. But if you're West Ham, that's what you kind of came in expecting to do. You know that they're going to get chances. You know the ball's going to fall to them. They have got people who can score. They have Isak. They have Almiron. They've got Tonali. They've got guys who can put the ball in the back of the net. And they did that. The ball kind of fell to Isak on one of them, where it was just like it kind of just felt like that. And West Ham, though, just seems built for that, where they're like, we're going to limit the amount of times that this can happen. Trust that our keeper can make a save, and we're going to get forward and score on the counter and then come back and do the same thing over and over and over again. And that's why they're also doing very well right now. They're actually ahead of Newcastle because they've stuck to their game plan. And they've had players who make plays when they need to make plays. Kudus coming off the bench, scoring like that. It's a massive, massive moment because plays like that define seasons when players can just do stuff that just gets a point, just a solitary point. Can be that motivational boost. So we've seen a lot of that from West Ham this year where guys make plays in games where they're getting outplayed, and that's a huge part of their ethos right now. So I'm actually going to give a shout out to West Ham for this game. I think they played it pretty well.
Oh yeah, I think they played it perfectly to get the 2-2 draw, and like you said, backs against the wall to an extent, 89th minute, and it's one of these guys that we've talked about plenty of times in the past. How West Ham sure sold Declan Rice. We think they're going to kind of fall by the wayside, and then they reinvest that money so well. Mohamed Kudus was one of those players that they reinvested it into, and he has shown some very good potential in the Premier League for West Ham. It's only 23 years old, but he's one that could be causing issues in the Premier League for a long time.
He's versatile too. He could play midfield. He could play on the wing. He could probably play outside back, I assume. Playing attacking roles in the midfield, defensive roles. So he's kind of just able to do it all. So I remember when they signed him, I thought that was a great signing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kudus he's a baller, and you give him a little bit of time to grow and develop, and he's going to be a great player. And you put him alongside Ward-Prowse, Edson Alvarez, Paqueta, and Souček, you got yourself a pretty solid midfield.
Yeah, definitely do. And I mean, up next for them after the international break's a big one for kind of their part of the table at Aston Villa. That's one that really can go either way. It seems like that Aston Villa, Brighton, West Ham, all three of them are always kind of, at least the last few years, right in that same grouping to an extent. And it's one that you win this one, that's a big 6-point swing. Could be even more big come the end of the season because they win that, they will jump Aston Villa. And as of now, depending on what Brighton would do, they'd be into 6th place or 5th place.
Yeah. So plenty of opportunity, and they put themselves in a very good position. So
yes, they have. Yeah. Otherwise, results around the league, nothing too special, nothing too crazy. Go through those. Tottenham 1, Luton 0. Tottenham did do that one, I will say, with 10 men in the entire second half, so that's decent result for them. And Van de Ven, of all the people, you've been praising him recently, not necessarily for his goal scoring as the center back, but – or not, yeah, as the center back, but more his defensive play, but now he gets a goal. I want to say this is his first for Tottenham, so
Yeah.
good result there for the 22-year-old.
Yeah, good result for Tottenham as well. As soon as you go down a man on the road, games change completely, even if you're the better team, and they still found a way to get a result. Not just a result, actually a win. So huge for them, and they're top of the table right now. So
Which that's crazy still in its own right to be thinking that
mhm.
they're still top of the table. Other ones, Everton, Bournemouth played in that relegation battle match, and Everton 3-0.
Yeah,
Seen Jack Harrison get a goal, former Leeds guy. Garner gets one, and Decore gets the third. But again, another one that seemed relatively straightforward by halftime.
yeah, they're already up 2-0 at halftime, and I know he didn't score, but as soon as Calvert-Lewin comes back, Everton starts playing well. I don't think it's a coincidence.
Nope.
I just think he brings that with him. Jack Harrison's obviously back from injury. He was injured for a while.
Yeah.
Player currently on loan from Leeds. So he got himself, I think that's his first goal for Everton.
Yep.
So, no, I mean, they're starting to put things together because I thought they would do that this year. I don't think they're going to be great, but I didn't think they'd be drawn into the relegation scrap like they were looking like earlier. So they're finally starting to get the wins against these teams. And, yeah, I think they've got a shot at finishing top 15 in the league this year if they keep doing what they're doing, so they can avoid that. And right now they're distancing themselves a little bit from that bottom kind of scrum.
Yeah.
Where you see those teams like Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United, and Bournemouth who have looked horrendous, kind of battling it out. So Everton just needs to keep getting the wins where they can against teams like that, pick up a few other results, and they'll be fine.
Yeah. And I mean, you brought up Sheffield United there. They just can't seem to get a lucky break at all.
No.
1-0 down against on the road against Fulham, get an own goal to make it 1-1. Then they concede an own goal.
Yeah.
And then a 92nd minute goal and end up losing 3-1, which sure, a loss is a loss, but also losing by 2 goals hurts their goal difference even more, which we're now down to minus 16 goal difference.
Yeah.
Bournemouth and Burnley, the other two in that scrap, right, or in the relegation zone as of now, both have minus 13, Luton minus 9. So it's these kind of games that, sure, you lose, that's not good. But losing by 2 goals compared to losing by 1 goal is a very, very big difference. You can't have that kind of mental shutdown at the very end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. They've had a rough go. They just feel like, yeah, like you said, nothing's really going their way right now. And I figure at a certain point, you make your own luck and things will turn around if you do the right things. But, man, they've gotten unlucky, I feel like, a few times.
Yeah. Well, other results, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, absolutely riveting match. Finished 0-0. I don't think there was much I would want to talk about on that one. Didn't exactly look
It was terrible.
exciting of games, to say the least. But it was what it was. Neither of those teams are really anything too special, so not going to look too much into them. Otherwise, the only other match on the Sunday, Wolves and Aston Villa, kind of an intriguing one. Wolves score 2 minutes later. Pau Torres equalizes. Anything from that one for you?
I mean, Wolves is actually playing a little bit better than I thought they would. Yeah, they got a point against a very good Aston Villa side, and they obviously beat Manchester City a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they're actually picking up some results that I wouldn't picture them picking up. Obviously, there's a red card in that game, but it's in the 94th minute, Mario Lemina. So I don't think that didn't change the game at all.
No.
So, I mean, good result for Wolves, poor result for Aston Villa. That's the kind of game that you want to pick up all 3 points, especially when you're kind of pushing above your weight, I feel like, at the top of the table. If you could pick up wins against them and then do your magic against the other teams, that's what you'd rather have. But good result for Wolves for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very big win for a Wolves side or a big result for a Wolves side to continue the momentum going. Jackson, any other stuff on the Premier League matches from this past weekend that stood out to you at all?
Nothing like really stood out to me besides the games that we talked about, obviously. But every time I look at the table, I just see Crystal Palace in the top 10. It's just astounding to me.
Yeah, it does seem weird that that's happening because always seems like they were mid-table, but it was never upper mid-table. It was always
Yeah.
that backside of that 13, 14 place. But otherwise, let's have a look at that table at the moment because it's an interesting position. Obviously, Tottenham and Arsenal, like you said, sitting top. I think that's kind of a surprise that Tottenham's up there.
Mm-hmm.
After those two, Man City in third place with 18 points, Liverpool fourth with 17, Villa and Brighton fifth, sixth with 16. West Ham, Newcastle, Palace, Man U, the next four spots, all descending point orders, 14 down to 12. Chelsea finally looking like they're getting almost to the top half of the table. 11 points, tied with Fulham, better goal difference. Then it gets into that relatively relegation esque scrap. A Forest, who's not out of the woods yet, 9 points. Wolves with 8. Brentford, Everton with 7. And then, like I was saying, Luton, Burnley, 4. Bournemouth, 3. And Sheffield United still with only 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
Anything really surprising you at the moment about the tables and what we're seeing?
I think Newcastle being as low still is a little shocking.
Yeah.
I was expecting them to be higher up, but there's a lot of season to go, and they are in 8th place with 13 points, so they're fine right now. They're only 4 points off Champions League, so it's a pretty tight battle up top. I feel like the addition of West Ham, Brighton, and Aston Villa into that conversation is making things way more fun. So we could have a nice, if things keep going this way where it's competitive, possibly 8 to 9 team battle up there, depending on how Man U and Chelsea do. So could be fun for a while. I think eventually you're going to see a few teams kind of take off, and then the rest will make up that Peloton kind of group and head towards the end looking for European spots. And I think right now the teams that look poised to make a break are Arsenal and Tottenham, but obviously Man City will definitely be close on their heels. But I think looking for European competitions, it could be very fun just when you're seeing all these teams and how they're competing. Villa looks like they have something about them. Brighton looks like they have something about them. West Ham can compete. Newcastle's Newcastle. And Man U and Chelsea look like they're finally starting to get things going a little bit. So we could have an interesting European battle this year for sure. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Going back to the Tottenham thing, they have been absolutely incredible under Postecoglou in his first year. So again, shout out to them. They've been so good this year. And looking down, Bournemouth and Sheffield United still to get a win. So they need to get something going. They need to get something going stat.
Yeah, and it doesn't really look like, at least on the Sheffield United side, that's going to happen. Home to Man U, at Arsenal, home to Wolves, who's playing well, at Brighton, and then the big one, November 25th, home to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
That is a big relegation 6-pointer, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I'm with you. It's kind of surprises are there. I'm surprised Everton is maybe as high as they are at this point. I know it's still early and they only do have 7 points, but I feel like they've gotten lucky in quite a few matches to survive with get this many points. Otherwise, Villa, Brighton, I can never tell what's going to happen with either of those two teams on any given day. They just seem like those teams that one day you could go and win 6-1 and next day lose 5-1.
Yeah.
Which we've seen happen with Villa this season. Kind of remarkable. Same with Brighton's had the same sort of stuff. That trio of those two in Newcastle, those 3 matches have been quite amazing so far this season. Otherwise, I guess it's just like I said earlier, weird seeing Tottenham sit atop the table. Who, as of now, is your prediction to win the league? Is it one of Arsenal or Tottenham, or do you still have complete faith in Man City?
I still am going to give it to City. I think there's a very realistic chance that Arsenal can win it. as well, but I'm still going to give City a slight edge for right now until we get further along. Just because I've seen it happen with Arsenal, with Liverpool, where teams are ahead and then City just guns them down.
Yep.
Like Pep Guardiola knows what it takes to win. So I think they still have to be the favorite, especially once De Bruyne comes back second half of the year. Arsenal I put very close second, like more than ever. They're a very close second. In Tottenham, I still want to see a little bit more because I don't know if this is all fluky or if this is who they are. But they're definitely third. But if they keep playing like this, they're going to move up because I think they've been the most impressive team in the league this year. I just want to see if they could continue doing that a little bit more because there's only been 8 games. So we'll look and see how things go for the next 11 because that'll be halfway point. We're not even thinking about that. 11 games to go till we're halfway done.
Yep.
So through the next 11 games, I want to see how they play, especially against the bigger teams because I think so far the only bigger teams they've played are Arsenal.
They drew with Arsenal, they beat Liverpool, and they beat Man U.
So they did beat them, but Man U is struggling. The Liverpool one's impressive, and the Arsenal one's impressive. I want to see what they do against the other big ones.
Yeah, and that Liverpool one was that controversial match, VAR, and the 96th minute own goal. So
Yeah.
with what you want from that, but that's the big thing that we've seen teams like Tottenham in the past struggle to do when they're looking to compete for a Champions League or compete for a title, which is a lot less so. But usually they find ways to mess up against these smaller teams or they drop points against the big teams. And we've seen them take care of business of all 4 relegation sides so far, winning all of those, which you just have to beat who's on your schedule. Doesn't matter when it is or who it is or where it is. You have to beat whoever's in front of you, and they've done a good job of that so far. Heung-Min Son still looking like a baller. Second most goals in the league, tied with Alexander Isak with 6, 2 goals behind Erling Haaland, which that in its own mind is crazy. Haaland, we were saying earlier, has struggled so much finding the back of the net, yet he still leads the league in goals.
Yeah. Crazy. The kind of standard we associate with them.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Fun next couple weeks, but we do have no Premier League action this upcoming weekend. It is the international break. And there's a couple matches that are intriguing. Start with the one later today. We are recording this on a Thursday. Scotland and Spain. Because the first match between these two, I think shocked a lot of people and really showed how legitimate Scotland is. Winning 2-0. And guess who scored? Scotland with a brace.
Yeah.
Does he get it done again against a Spanish side?
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. Spain's going to be pissed because of that loss. Other than that, they've taken care of business in qualifying. But then obviously they lose at Scotland, which I'm not going to lie, playing in Scotland's one of the tougher places to play. I mean, those fans know how to show up, so can't be too hard on them. But I think they're going to be pissed off. I think they're going to run Scotland into the ground. I think they're going to kill them. I think, I just don't see any way that they're not so pissed off and don't win this game. Over under is 2.5. I think that's definitely over. I think Spain scores 3 minimum.
Especially with their 16-year-old wonder kid who's apparently been called up to the national team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is.
But the other thing is that on the Scotland side, sure, you expect Spain to win. I expected Spain to win the first leg between these two. Scotland's playing for their European berth. If they get a point at least, then they will qualify for the Euros next summer, which when you looked at this group earlier, Norway, Spain, sure, Georgia, Cyprus, less so, but Scotland seemed like that odd man out of those top 3. And now they're sitting up there 5-0, 12 goals for, 1 against, really looking like the best team in the group thus far.
Yeah, I mean, 5 games, 5 wins. Pretty hard to argue with that. Also worth noting that, no, the 16-year-old wonder kid is not going to play because he's injured. He was called up, but he's not going to play. Lamine Yamal not going to play. Neither is Jeremy Pino, but I don't think people are as sad about that one. But
No.
still, I mean, you look at the strength of the Spanish side; it's pretty damn good. Premier League players playing for them are Ansu Fati, Rodri, Pau Torres, and David Raya. So 4 Premier League players playing for them, and then we'll see what Scotland's made of in this game.
Yes, we will. It's going to be a real test going to Spain. Don't know what stadium they're playing at, but it's not one of the huge ones. It's not, I mean, in terms of it's not the Camp Nou or the Bernabeu, so won't be that big a crowd. But another one that's interesting coming up. This one is on Friday. Netherlands hosting France. A lot of Premier League players in that one as well. I don't know which way I'm leaning in this one. I can see it going both ways. I just feel like France is still that better team, but the way Mbappe's been playing recently, it's less than ideal because he had 2 of the goals in the match when they played last time for a 4-0 drubbing by France.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think France still has to be favored.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you just always have to favor France. So one thing that would take away from that is the fact that it's in the Netherlands. But that doesn't usually seem to bother France that much.
No.
So I think France will win this game. I do expect a fight, though. But, yeah France is going to get it done.
I agree with you. I do think they're still – sure, Mbappe might not be playing great at the moment, but they're still arguably the best team in the world. Have so much talent outside of him. Griezmann's been thriving at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Do you see that bike?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been balling out recently.
He's really good right now.
Yeah, we miss out on a lot of the other leagues when we do our podcast, but there have been some crazy stuff going on. Bundesliga, Bayer Leverkusen on top, and then some of the stuff in the Liga right now. There's some fun stuff going on outside of the Prem.
Absolutely. It's definitely worth noting that while this is a Premier League podcast, it's well worth watching whatever football you can, especially these top leagues in Europe, Spain, Germany. Serie A is exciting.
Oh, Serie A is good right now too.
Serie A is spicy, but there's only one other match I kind of want to touch on at all. England and Italy. This one seems kind of self-explanatory. It is virtually all Premier League players for one side playing against a decent number on the other side. Game will be it's in England at Wembley.
Yeah.
And I want to lean to England, but this is by no means a gimme. Last time these two teams played at Wembley, it was that dreadful European Championship that Italy just stole away because
stole away.
No.
Stole away.
Won on penalties. I'm still salty about that, but hey, what it is. Because they did play more recently in England, but they played at the Molineux and not Wembley, so they'll be back in a familiar place and looking to kind of keep it going because these two teams have yet to play in the qualifying group stage, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they played once in Italy, and England won.
Yeah, that's right.
That was to open things up. Declan Rice scored.
Yeah, he did. Scored. Got a yellow. Harry Kane scored.
Mm-hmm.
But do you expect England to win this one, or you think Italy will obviously get
Oh, sorry, that's my water company. But yeah, I'm in charge of the water at our house, so I get stuck with all that shit. But anyway, I think England's gonna win this at home. I think England's so strong. They always look good at qualifying.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys always look good in qualifying. It's when you actually get to the tournament that you suck ass usually. But I think you're gonna win this game. Dude, this could be – I mean, Italy right now is on 7 points. So is Ukraine and North Macedonia. So –
do we see the Italians miss out on a second consecutive major tournament?
I mean, this could be rough because Ukraine's at home against North Macedonia. That could be a win. Italy's going to play Malta at home. That could be a win. But then Italy goes to England, and Ukraine then plays Malta. So Ukraine, they pick up 2 wins. They're in prime position. Yeah. And if that were to happen, how many games would be left?
2. And
Ukraine would have 1 game left, and it would be at home against Italy. Dude, we could have a freaking cinematic finish. This
Oh,
could
yeah,
be
I mean, looking at it, at the next international breaks, mid to late November.
and that's the one that decides it all.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Italy has to play their kryptonite, North Macedonia, a team that somehow has their number. They don't get a result there and need to go to the. I guess they probably play in Poland, not in the Ukraine. But
Yeah.
then they have to play Ukraine, not on the road. They could be in trouble.
Yeah, that's why this England game's huge for them because they don't pick up a result. I back Ukraine to pick up 2 results this break. So we could be interesting. I mean, North Macedonia is also on 7 points too, so there's a three-way tie going on. So,
North Macedonia has the tough end of the straw
oh yeah,
at Ukraine, at Italy, home to England. But by then, England might be. I would think England will already be qualified.
you guys are just about there already
Yeah,
anyway because you
and
got
then
13.
maybe England rests some players, doesn't put out a great squad, slips up, lets in a goal or two. Next thing you know, the Italians are going home.
Lucky thing for Italy is they are assured of at least a playoff place because of their Nations League stuff. But yeah, I mean, you still would rather just qualify straight up than have to go to yet another playoff and then miss out, just like at the World Cup qualifiers. So yeah, could be fun. It's going to be interesting to see this group, especially.
Yeah, I mean, other groups are relatively close. Croatia, Turkey, Armenia, Wales. Those 4 teams are separated by 3 points. Poor Latvia, yet to pick up a point in that group stage.
Oh, what the hell is Poland doing?
They're selling.
Yeah, that I'm actually so pissed off right now. But
that's another big one today is Croatia and Turkey. Winner of that will likely, in all you would think, have a big step in their favor of winning that group.
and going, yeah.
And then the other one gets thrown into that matchup with Wales, who can potentially pull some stuff together. Might not be as likely without Gareth Bale, but still have plenty of Premier League talent and other top-level talent there. Yeah, Poland, 6 points through 5 matches. They're trailing Moldova, Czech Republic, and Albania.
Yeah, it's bad.
Good job, Lewandowski.
It's bad. Sucks to be Polish and Irish.
Yeah. How are the Irish doing? Are they?
I didn't even notice, but I just remember looking and it was not great. Yeah, there it is. Because their group is France, Netherlands, Greece. They're effed.
Yep, they're done for already. Otherwise, kind of a sneaky, intriguing group. Hungary, Serbia, Montenegro. All 3 of those teams are split by 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have to play a lot of each other still. Montenegro still has to play Serbia this international break. Have to play Hungary the next one. Could be a little intriguing there because Serbia and Hungary play this weekend.
Yeah.
Damn, that's another one more group that I want to just kind of bounce over quickly before we wrap this show up because I'm just looking at the tables because I haven't for a while, and this one's interesting to me. Slovenia, Denmark, Finland, Kazakhstan, Northern Ireland, San Marino. Group H of qualifying. Northern Ireland, San Marino, they're done. Nothing to play for. But Kazakhstan and Finland sit 3rd and 4th with 12 points each. Slovenia and Denmark have 13 each. I would love to see Kazakhstan at the Euros.
Oh, 100%.
That would be cool to see.
100%. They're right there as well. They're at least assured of a playoff spot as well. So
Yeah,
they've got a good shot.
Yeah. I mean, they play at – that's the hard part. The 3 teams mentioned with them, Kazakhstan still has to go to all 3. At Denmark, at Finland this break, home to San Marino, and then at Slovenia next break.
Yeah, but they got the playoff spot, so they'll always have a shot.
Yes, they do.
So,
Jackson, any other footballing news that you want to touch on?
nah, I have class here in a sec, so I got to get going, but
exactly.
Perfect ending point.
But otherwise, thank you guys, the viewers, for tuning in. Make sure you click that subscribe button to Vendetta Sports Media's YouTube channel, where all of our episodes will be. A lot of NBA coverage coming up, a lot of NHL coverage coming up, as well as a lot of football stuff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.